bellies and turbans. So, with all this sloshing around my head, I walk across the car park with Daniel to the bakery in spite of myself. It wasn't entirely clear why they needed the money. I wasn't going to pay the bank back, I knew that. They suspected, but I knew. Other than that, I suppose I wanted to get by from day to day, the minimum expectation, the minimum investment in the passage of my life through time. Dan, though, he needed the week's money for Helena's second abortion. We walked into the dispatch room, the rows of vans agape, the same drab colours, drab people. Said hello to someone we recognised, walked towards the office to find out what they'd put us on tonight. Peter was there, looking serious and worried, as if the world would end if some corner shop didn't get enough crumpets tomorrow morning. I wondered if he had kids and what they were eating for breakfast when he came home every morning. Daniel got dispatched, went to get a loader. I got wrapping for the first time, working one of the machines which stood between the bakery proper and the dispatch and loading area. I wanted a loader, didn't like the idea of working in the netherworld, the limbo of non-dispatch. How I could have reached the stage of having a preference for one type of shit work instead of another, I can't imagine. I suppose this is what you'd get like in a job, and this is exactly why I don't want one, which still didn't explain what I was doing there in the first place. There were 4 wrapping machines, one next to the other in a big room. The bread entered the room on a sort of conveyor belt thing which came through a hole in the wall in the top corner and ran all the way around the walls like an agoraphobic Big Dipper on stilts, and ended up being fed into the back end of the wrapping machine, where it was sliced and bagged. The machine had a set of blades from Elm Street, a claw to pick up the plastic bag for the loaf, and a wind blower which blew air into the plastic bag to open it as the slices were shoved in before one of those little plastic and wire tie things was crimped over the end to seal the whole thing. And the complete package was then delivered to a tray at the end of the machine. Notice the lack of any human intervention in the process. My job was to pick up the sealed loaf from the out tray and put it in a dispatch tray which somebody would come and take away. 12 loaves a tray, 10 trays a stack. You have no idea how I cherished this task. I was complete. My training for this rung of the career ladder consisted of one of the Sikh foremen pointing at one of the machines and walking off. The Sikhs were pretty good guys, if a little limited in conversation. They had huge bellies and turbans and beards, and liked to chase Daniel as he went by on a loader, pretending they were going to rape him. They called him Jesus and made wanking gestures after they ran after him, squealing his name and laughing like mad people. Daniel didn't like it. Everyone else did. I started my new vocation with all the verve of a dead body at a speed dating event. I had no expectations and no enthusiasm. I was just going to do this until it finished and I could stop doing it. When I learnt the word microcosm sometime later, I might have smiled a little smile to myself. So I wait for a minute or so, unemployed by an industry society existence, until a little starch motorcade of loaves shoots out of the wall and circles the gantry track thing and plunges into the slicer, and the dance begins. The wrapper punches them out and I chuck them into the trays to the mechanical rhythm set by my masters, the machines. I understood why the training had been so exhaustive. More bread comes to be decimated, wrapped and stacked. Then more. The tray fills up with 12 loaves and I put it on the floor. Start a new tray. More bread, another tray. 10 trays to a stack, harder as it gets higher. 10th tray and the bread is still coming out of the machine as I heave it on top of the other 9. I'm pulling the stack to one side, the loaves are piling up, the slicer's slicing, I'm pulling a new stack of empty trays over, the carbohydrate convoy is still coming. After 30 minutes on the wrapping machine, my life seems to have ebbed away, or maybe that was just what I wish had happened, as all meaning seems to have left my being, my actions, me. I was less than a machine, I was a machine's assistant, there to empty it when it was full and feed it when it was empty. A cuckoo's adopted parent, stoking the infinite furnace. After 3 hours, I lost all feeling in my mind and volition over my body. I began to suspect I wasn't born to work. Nothing else happened all night. I felt like Sisyphus with a 6-ton bread roll. I moved the wrapped loaves from pillar to post at the end of my tether as eternity stretched out like a cat in front of the fire as I lay dying nearby. The cows came home, had the dinner and a nap and went off to work again, complaining how cold it was in hell these days. Sometimes there was a tear in the fabric of space-time, and the machine jammed, and I had to call Colin, the wrapping assistant timer, or twat, to come over and help me unjam it. Colin was about 30 or 50 or dead, and he'd been there too long, knew the characteristics of each machine intimately. Yeah, he'd say, number 3, she's a real tart sometimes. Just needs a tickle, and he'd do something and the machine would start again. Way to add to my despair, Colin. That's what happens when you work here, is it? I was hoping he didn't have names for them. That's all that happened that night. Daniel didn't even come and see me. He was only working tonight to pick up his wages to pay for Helena. I took a couple of breaks, but my arms kept moving in the same motion and I still couldn't focus my eyes. The colours and the sounds all droned on with no promise of any variation, remorseless, intense and selfish. I knew it would end, but I knew it would start again. So it was like it'd never end. Bread come, machine slice, man pick up, turn, put, bread come. Monotony, standing, waiting, working. At least if I was buried alive, I could lie down. The sound of the machine added nothing to anything. The bread came buzzing around the pylons, rammed into the machine in a little burst of crumbs and fury, and came out in a plastic bag which was greasy and repulsive to touch. There's nothing human about plastic. If you're around plastic too long, you turn into it. Mind you, if you're around humans too long, you turn into an animal. Nothing else happened, ever. I petrified into a moving statue, my will subsumed to the will of a more efficient device, senses dull to blunt, thoughts set like porridge on a pantry shelf. Time stopped passing and just congealed around me. I began to forget I existed, because I might as well not have. I had hypnotized myself into nirvana with a mantra of movement, reflexive but not reflective, a meditation on not meditating. I was a cog but not cognitive. Nothing else happened. Nothing had to. Nothing did. Nothing was. Me neither.